In the south of Italy, in the region of Basilicata, there is a beautiful place. A stone village overlooking a green and fertile valley. Its medieval architecture is a treasure for the eyes. But the inhabitants of the neighboring villages do not pronounce its name. Not out of ignorance, but out of fear. For them, it is the cursed village. Simply mentioning its name, Colobraro, is believed to bring bad luck. This is the story of a belief, a superstition that became the identity of a place. It is the story of how a myth can change the fate of a community. The region of Basilicata, one of the poorest and most rural in Italy, is a land of ancient traditions and deep-rooted superstitions. Here, folklore mixes with daily life. Legends are not just old stories. They are part of a collective reality. In this context, a small village called Colobraro has carried a stigma that has defined it for over a century. A stigma that originates from a belief that the village is cursed. Simply pronouncing its name, Colobraro, is considered an omen of bad luck. People from the neighboring towns avoid it at all costs. They refer to it as that village or make a protective gesture with their hand to ward off bad luck. Those born there are viewed with suspicion, and their children, who have emigrated, often remain silent about their origins to avoid rejection. Colobraro is not just a name. It is a taboo word, a warning of misfortune. But life in Colobraro wasn't always like this. Before the stigma, it was a village like any other. People lived off farming and livestock. Families were strong, the community united. A place full of life, with children running through its narrow streets and neighbors sharing bread. The curse is not as old as the village. It is a recent wound, an event that marked the turning point. The myth of the curse of Colobraro has an origin, a story that takes us to the center of a courtroom, to a man's bet. The origin of the curse of Colobraro, according to legend, dates back to the 1950s. At that time, a lawyer from the region, a man known for his dramatic oratory and his fondness for excessive speech, found himself in a crucial trial. To add weight to his argument, he made an imprudent statement, a boast that would resonate for decades. In front of the court, the lawyer arrogantly declared, "If what I say is not true, may the chandelier in this room fall upon my head." At that moment, the chandelier from the ceiling detached and crashed to the ground, without injuring anyone. The silence in the room was absolute. The lawyer was not apparently harmed, but his reputation was marked. His hometown, Colobraro, became inextricably linked to his act of insolence. From that moment on, a series of misfortunes began to occur in the life of the lawyer and those who mocked the story. It was said that the families who turned their backs on him suffered inexplicable accidents. The fields of those who criticized him dried up. The legend of the chandelier, in the hands of a superstitious society, became the curse of the village. The myth was not just a story, it was an omen, and people with fear began to act accordingly. The myth of the lawyer and the chandelier had a devastating impact. In a time of rural poverty, where the future was already uncertain, the curse was the perfect excuse to flee. The young people seeking a better life in Italy's big cities or abroad left with an easy excuse. It wasn't just because of the lack of work. It was to escape the stigma, to avoid being associated with a place of bad luck. Those born in Colobraro discovered that their origin was a burden. In the cities, they kept the name of their village quiet to avoid being looked at with distrust. The legends had grown bigger than reality. Marriages between people from Colobraro and neighboring villages became more difficult. People feared the curse would spread, that bad luck would be contagious. With every person who left, the village emptied a little more. Local stores closed, schools were left without students. The population aged. The few who remained were the elderly, who had nowhere to go or who, clinging to their land, refused to give in to superstition. Colobraro became a ghost town, a beautiful stone relic crumbling under a curse that no one could prove, but that everyone believed. Despite its fame, Colobraro did not give up. In recent decades, the story of the curse has shifted from being an excuse for fear to being a tool for survival. The few residents who remained realized that the curse was their only weapon. If they couldn't deny it, they could at least control it. In the summer, the village fills with life in a very particular way. A night festival is held that attracts tourists from all over the world. The festival is called the Dream of the Curse and is based on the region's folklore. Local actors and residents dress in period costumes to tell stories of witches, spells, and, of course, the legend of the chandelier. It is an act of resilience, a way of reclaiming their identity. For the inhabitants, the curse was never real. It was a reflection of the region's poverty. It was easier to blame a myth than the lack of opportunities. Today, they have decided to embrace the story, but with a twist. The stigma that isolated them is now what unites them. The curse that made them a ghost town is now what gives them a reason to keep living, a story to tell. The paradox of Colobraro in the 21st century is fascinating. The village has become a destination for tourists seeking unique experiences, for those who want to immerse themselves in a story of mystery and superstition. The very name that was once avoided is now on tourist signs. The same stigma that cost them their identity is now their main attraction. However, for the older residents, the memory of the past is real. The fear is still there. Many still believe in the curse, and stories of misfortunes associated with the village are passed down from generation to generation. For them, the festival and the tourists are a curiosity, but the truth of the curse remains in their hearts. It is the story of how a belief can live longer than the generation that created it. The case of Colobraro is a study of the nature of faith, fear, and identity. Is the village cursed? Or is it simply a village that fell victim to the superstition of a society? The reality of Colobraro is not in magic or myth. It is in the heart of its people, in their struggle to survive, to find a place in the world, to reclaim a name that was taken from them. The sun sets over Colobraro, illuminating the stones of its centuries-old houses. The village that no one dared to name is now on Google Maps. The mystery that enveloped it for decades is now its salvation. The curse that caused the exodus of its inhabitants now brings people back, even if only for a few summer days. The lesson of Colobraro is one that goes beyond superstition. It is a lesson about human resilience, about a community's ability to reinvent itself, to embrace its demons and turn them into strength. The story of this village is not the story of a ghost from the past, but of a constant struggle for the future. The mystery of Colobraro is still alive, but now it is no longer a curse. It is the story of how a village found new life in a place where everyone thought it had died.